he'd fight the charges. She said that had been a serious mistake and she accepted full responsibility. Now to tennis on the BBC World Service and the fallout from Maria.
Turn left at the traffic light.
With news of several high-profile sponsors distancing themselves from the former world number one. Sharapova has said she has taken full responsibility and said she made a mistake. Well, Dick Pound, the former head of the World Anti-Doping Agency, described the affair as reckless and beyond description, and he has questioned the role of Sharapova's support staff, as he outlined to the BBC Sports News correspondent Richard Conway.
So here we go again, and that it would be another bad day for tennis, which is having a rough patch on corruption and match fixing and referees and all that. And one of your number one players is caught.
Yeah, it's not good. And that's, we've seen Maria Sharapova come out and say this was a big mistake, a great mistake as she's called it, that she didn't intend to take this drug that's been on the banned list. It's only since January. Can there be any excuses?
No. Leaving aside fair play side of it, I mean, you're running a $30 million annual business. It depends on you staying eligible to play tennis, and you're taking something that's on a list. I'm sorry, that is a big mistake.
However, world number one Serena Williams played down concerns that the women's tour would be affected if Sharapova was banned.
I am not concerned. I think there's a lot of great stars on the WTA tour. I think there's a lot of people that, play great tennis, and there's a lot of great personalities. Like Caroline, I know she wants to play for a number of years. And, we need that. We need those stars, and we have them. And we have a lot of young players, a lot of U.S. players as well that are still young and that are doing really, really great. And I think when the time comes, someone will definitely step up and be that leader.
Well, Sharapova could escape a lengthy ban if she was taking the medicine for underlying medical conditions. That's the tennis authorities were informed about in advance. Well, Dr. Ross Tucker from the Sports Science Institute of South Africa outlines how this might work.
If she now goes forward and she can prove that she had been declaring this medicine when she did her anti-doping, if she can show that she genuinely had a condition that required this drug, then when they sanction her, instead of giving her 4 years, they can maybe be a little more lenient and say it's 2 years or even 1 year. But I can't see how you can escape a sanction for it. If that happens, I strongly suspect she'll get some sanction, and whether or not she can have it reduced, and that will be based on the evidence she can provide in support of her own explanation for why she was taking the drug. I hope it's not completely exonerated, because I think that would send a bad message.
Finally, to cricket, and Pakistan are threatening to pull out of the ICC World T20 competition, citing security concerns. The tournament is being held in various cities across India, with the host scheduled to meet Pakistan in the group stages. Dharamsala has been selected as the venue for the high-profile fixture, but Pakistan have questioned its suitability. The BBC's Rahul Tandon explains why.
Basically, a few months ago, there was an attack near the Pakistan border here in India, in Pathankot. India blamed elements from across the border for it. Pakistan, of course, denied that. But there have now been protests in Dharamshala with ex-army veterans saying they don't want Pakistan to play there. And the chief minister of that state has said he's not sure he can guarantee the security of the Pakistan players. That's why there's a team that has come to India to assess security before deciding, one, whether Pakistan will play this match in Dharamshala, and two, whether they'll actually play in this tournament.
Stay with us if you can for more updates, but for now, that's BBC Sport.
This is the BBC World Service. In the second part of our Global Beat special, we continue our tour of Music City, USA.
It's a city that lives and breathes music. We're in Nashville to meet the young bloods who are reinventing the sound of American music.
When I die, don't dress me for my grave. No suit and tie when the angels call.
We're talking bluegrass, gospel, blues, music which goes way back, giving new life by a new generation.
My moon, my queen, been gone since May, so I lie away.
Join me, Max Reinhardt, as we celebrate the past, the present, and the future with some of Americana's freshest talent.
I love country music. It inspires me. It's where my roots are.
I know you will sing for free. I'm not where I wanna be. That's Global Beat. bbcworldservice.com/BBC Music.
Every year, state school pupils from less privileged backgrounds apply for places at elite British schools like Eton. This week, many find out if they've been successful.
I sort of made a very, very loud noise down my school corridors when I read it. And ever since then, I haven't regretted it at all. It's been, I would say, the best decision of my life so far.
I'm Penny Marshall. Join me after the news on BBC World Service for an Eton experience.
BBC News with Jonathan Izard. Slovenia is the latest European Union member to have closed its border with migrants. The Slovenian government said restrictions came into effect from midnight local time. In response to Slovenia's announcement, its southern neighbour Serbia, which is not an EU member, also imposed similar restrictions. The Greek Prime Minister Alexis Tsipras has said the EU's deal with Turkey will help stop what he called the unbearable flow of people trying to reach Europe. Under the deal, Turkey will take back illegal migrants arriving on Greek islands. In return, the EU will resettle a similar number of Syrians from Turkish camps. The World Health Organization has advised pregnant women not to travel to areas of Latin America affected by Zika because of growing evidence of a link between the virus and birth defects. The advice comes just 5 months before Brazil is due to host the Olympic Games. US voters are casting their ballots in presidential primaries in several states, including the key industrial battleground of Michigan. Opinion polls suggest that Republican frontrunner Donald Trump has a solid double-digit lead over his nearest rival, Senator Ted Cruz. In the Democratic Party race, Hillary Clinton appears to have stronger support than her competitor, Bernie Sanders. US military officials say they've targeted the top Islamic State commander in a coalition airstrike in Syria. The Pentagon said that Omar al-Shishani, a Georgian national known for his distinctive red beard, is likely to have been killed in the attack. Reports from Zimbabwe say the government is drawing up plans to compensate mainly white farmers who lost land during state-backed farm invasions 16 years ago. The Bloomberg news agency says the Zimbabwean Finance Ministry has issued a briefing paper.
You will arrive at your destination on the right, in 1,000 feet.
Across parts of Asia and the Pacific are experiencing rare total solar eclipse. The darkness will be total across a 150-kilometre wide strip from western Indonesia to the north of Hawaii. BBC News.
I'm Penny Marshall, and here on the BBC World Service, I'll be reporting on pupils applying for scholarship places at Britain's most famous fee-paying school. This is an Eton experience.
The bell goes off about in houses about 7:30, and then they get up and they have breakfast, and most days then go to chapel, and then the first lesson will be at 9. Lessons are called schools or divs. There's a lot of Eton jargon. It's completely different vocabulary.
Is getting up in the morning a problem for any of these young men?
The bell is very loud. The dame or matron is very firm with her knock on the door, and by hook or by crook the boys get up.
I'm joining the Eton throng, watching the boys already here rush enthusiastically from lesson to lesson, weighed down by their books, and speaking to those who aspire to join them, particularly those from poorer families, where the prospect of a full scholarship might turn their aspirations into reality.
This is
I
Ma'am.
am.
This is
I'm
Ma'am.
the Dame.
The Dame.
Very
the Dame.
pretentious name, isn't it? I'm pretty undame-like, I have to say.
Yes, and the boys call her Ma'am.
Yes, they do.
Yes, the house starts with her and
Traffic jam ahead.
Eton has its own place in history, and its history still defines much of its present, including a 600-year-old commitment to help educate the poor. This week, letters
You have reached your destination on the right.
for sixth form scholarships. Fees here are normally £35,000 a year. For those boys waiting to hear their fate, even getting this far has been a long process involving commitment and self-discipline, and one we started following back in November when we joined some of the state school pupils applying for these free school places. Boys like 15-year-old Dennis and his friend Hasha from Forest Gate Community School in East London.
It's better to try it and fail and learn than to succeed and never fail, because then you won't know what's wrong with you.
My dad has pretty good English, but my mum doesn't speak English that well. They're really proud of me going to all of these prestigious colleges and applying. I
have, like, you know, I think I can actually make it somewhere. My parents, but then they do say that, you know, everything happens for the best.
Whether they're successful, we'll come back to later. But their chances are undoubtedly improved because their head teacher, who's no sixth form of his own, believes in the idea of sending his brightest pupils to a private school for the sixth form experience. Head Simon Elliott is supporting Dennis and Hasha and a few others through the process.
We can't fix the class system overnight, but the fact that they're doing it is better than nothing, isn't it? I mean, and our children might as well go there. I'm grateful to these schools for running these scholarship programs. The process is tough. They have to have a really good application letter. We coach them to get involved in other interests, to read widely. They understand that it's difficult, and life is difficult, so the bar is set very high.
He decided to offer support after finding out a few years ago that one teenager had tried it alone and narrowly missed out on a place.
We had a student who applied on his own and got down to the last 16 at Eton, and he only came to see me and said, I've got down to the last 16, and I was quite surprised by it. And he didn't get in, although I did try and help him. And I think my deputy Saeed and I were talking, and we said, look, we've got some really bright students, our results have been really good. Let's try and get some of them into the top colleges in the country. And from there, we chose a couple, didn't we?
We thought, well, maybe we should actually make this quite a concerted strategy to get these kids into these schools rather than just leaving it completely up to them.
And it's not just boys who are applying. Girls like Mamita and Rizwana have their sights set on...
Take the next left onto UT 186, North Columbus Street.
Helped when we get to the entrance exams. I think the papers will be quite challenging, but I think it's good that you're challenged. I've asked my science teachers to give me tips, questions that they think might come up. 2 years ago, I'd say, my brother went through the same process, and he actually managed to win a place at Winchester School, and he's really excelled.
Rizwana's brother Irfan was one of the first successful scholars from Forest Gate, and he is now at Winchester College. Early successes like his helped inspire those who came after.
One got into Eton, one got into Winchester, and the other one got into
They're right at the traffic light.
The good thing is that I've had students in this office who come in and have actually mentioned the fact that they're motivated by the fact that these children have gone on and done it.
Not many heads can offer the support Simon Elliott does to aim for top private schools. One of those who got to Eton with more limited steering from his teachers was scholar Elias.
They're right at the traffic light.
Son's musical potential when at 6 he'd sat down and tried to play the piano in the chapel where the family worshipped each week in Dagenham.
And then I said to Mira, do you hear that? Can you hear that? Who is that? Then he said, oh, I think Ellie. I said, no, that can't be, because it sounds of something. And he never touched the piano. For me, it sounded of a melody already, you know. And then I said to Ellie, would you like to learn an instrument? And he just looked at me, and everything was shining.
I immediately lit up in my face. I was suddenly very, very happy, exhilarated. My parents have told me that when they knew that I had something, a gift for music. That's what they've told me, at least.
It was a long journey there to Eton, where he ended up a music scholar 10 years later. A free flute from a community music scheme sent him on his way.
He never would say, I don't want to do it anymore, or this, never.
Because we weren't pushing anything.
No.
I don't believe we should push the kids. They do the opposite.
Yeah.
Elias's parents knew their son was talented, but also knew their circumstances made it difficult to support him. They had very little money and lived in a tough neighborhood where they worried about their son.
At school, in year 9, they couldn't teach him more. Yeah. And
turn left at the traffic light.
Somebody said to him about if he ever thought about to go in a boarding school or something, you know. I think about Eton, to go on the opening.
Yeah, I was initially reluctant.
To go on the opening.
Yeah, I was initially reluctant, very reluctant, just because of the general stigma and image. But eventually I sort of agreed and decided to go along to one open day.
Turn left at the traffic light.
The music teachers there, to the other academic professors, and the students there as well, actually.
They were all well off, is it? And you are worried. You think, oh, I hope that doesn't go too much. It doesn't take anything away. Yeah, exactly. That is the.
Turn right at the second set of traffic lights.
Scholarship, he said you have to apply.
So did a personal statement, CV, predicted grades.
And I think he just applied like among many other things.
I didn't know the school. I never heard about it. I didn't heard it.
Yeah, I did. I knew about the school. But it's just kind of.
Turn right at the traffic light.
I didn't know what it is.
And
I just knew he goes away from home, and my first reaction was when he said about the email, I said, you are not going anywhere. You're staying here.
I remember sort of being at school at break time with one of my friends, and I just saw my parents drive into the school, and my mum just handed me through the rails like a letter, and then I opened it and it said, "Dear Elias, we're glad to inform you that we are now going to offer you the Andrew Lloyd Webber Music Scholarship," and at which I sort of made a very, very loud noise down my school corridors when I read it. And ever since then I haven't regretted it at all. It's been, I would say, the best decision of my life so far.
He took up his place in September 2013, and his tutor was biology teacher Paul Gillam.
Mr. Gillam, good morning, sir. Hello.
Paul says the scholarship boys like Elias.
Turn left at the traffic light. Then, arrive at your destination on the right.
It's amazing.
Turn left at the traffic light. Then, arrive at your destination on the right.
You know, the thing that a lot of the sixth form scholars do is they lead such busy lives when they come.